Sam, and today we're going to talk about Real Tigers by Mick Herron. This is the third in the Slough series of books. Slow Horses, if you're more familiar with the television series. So, here's what I've learned after reading 3 of these books. Mick Herron has this gimmick at the beginning of each of the books where someone or something enters Slough House and walks through it and observes it. I think in the first book it was like a hypothetical person from a tour bus. The second one it was the cat. In this one it's a ghost. Okay, fine. I don't like this gimmick. I don't. I don't find it useful. I don't find it clever, well-crafted, anything like that. The other thing that he tends to do is he does this kind of thing with characters where he thinks he's getting deep into their thoughts. In the first book, it was the kidnapped kid. In this book, it's Catherine because she's kidnapped. And I could just say, I don't think he does that very well either. I don't think he's good at it. He's trying to be kind of artsy about a lot of the thoughts that these people are having. He's trying to be deep and, again, I think clever, and it doesn't work, at least not for me. I mean, obviously your mileage may vary, but I just don't find it well done. And it's tedious, actually, and a little bit self-indulgent for the author. And and then just some of his writing. There are things that I see in the writing that remind me of when I was a much younger writer, a much newer writer, a much rawer writer. Stuff that at the time I thought was really clever, but looking back now I would find very cringe. That's the quality of writing I find in a lot of these books. So, yeah, I mean, they're not the worst thing I've ever read. And I gave this one 4 stars. It's more like a 3.5, 3.7 maybe. It's entertaining. I don't think the writing is great. So that's the overall thing. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the plot specifics. So if you haven't read it, or you haven't seen the television season yet, you may want to bail, because at this point you might get some spoilers. I won't say that I remember season 3 like super detailedly television-wise. It's been a while since I've watched it. But I do remember the opening scene was the guy and the woman in like a foreign country, and he works for the service, and he's following her because she's actually, I think, his mark or whatever. And she's taking a file to somebody, and she ends up thrown off of they're like a stadium, I think, and she's thrown off like one of the upper walkways into the parking lot and dies. And that is the impetus for this guy's eventual revenge plot. They kidnap Catherine because they want the truth to come out about this woman's death and, that kind of thing. What we get here is the opening scene is a guy dressed as Spider-Man standing on, I think it's London Wall, and he's got a banner for father's rights. A guy dressed as Batman meets him there because they've met online. They're supposed to have the same cause, but the Batman guy drops the Spider-Man guy off the wall. We find out later in passing that the Spider-Man guy survived. It's not clear to me what the point of this was, unless we're supposed to think the guy dressed as Batman was Sean Donovan, or Sean Donovan being the guy who wants revenge. Or if it was like Nick Duffy, I don't know. I missed something there, I think. I think that's on me. But it didn't seem to be that important either. So we also just we get Catherine's kidnapping by Sean Donovan and his guys. Catherine and Sean had been drinking buddies, it turns out. And he is just out after 5 years in prison for drunk driving. But really, he was set up because his friend's fiance, who was in the military with them, she knew something she wasn't supposed to know, so Diana had her bumped off as a favor to the Home Secretary at the time and put Dame Ingrid Tierney's name and stamp on that without Dame Ingrid really knowing, because Dame Ingrid at the time was new to the service, or at least new to being in charge, new to being the first desk. I don't know. So it gets convoluted, right? Diana has suggested to the new Home Secretary, our good friend Peter Judd, who is just as despicable in the books as he is in the show, the Tiger Team thing. And so the idea is that they've kidnapped Catherine to, test the defenses of the service. Rivers goes off on the chase to get the file and fails and gets beat up by Nick Duffy. And then, a lot of that is the same. Though, the circumstances of Catherine's kidnapping are slightly different. There's no female kidnapper. It's just Sean Donovan, the guy, Ben Traynor, who was the fiance of the woman who died, and the woman's brother. So just those three. They keep Catherine locked up. They offer her a bottle of wine, which Catherine assumes is meant to be a kindness, but, obviously she spends a big chunk of the book, in her head about being an alcoholic. And again, it's not well done at all. The other thing that is different is that Spider is in the hospital on life support after being shot by the Russians in book 2, which obviously is different from the series where he is actually a big part of the whole Tiger Team thing. So River goes and visits Spider regularly, just sits by his bedside and chats at him, I guess. Though at the end of the book, he goes and Spider is gone from the room, and he assumes that they took him off life support. So that's different. I mean, if Spider is dead, because that has not been confirmed in this book, then it's nets out the same as the series, because obviously he dies in season 3 and they dump him outside the restaurant. In this book, the guy dumped outside the restaurant is the Tiger Team leader, who Sean Donovan and his buddy... Well, Sean Donovan kills him. His buddy knows the plan, but Sean Donovan kills him and dumps him outside the restaurant that Peter Judd is at. Lamb doesn't go to the restaurant in this book, so we don't get that kind of funny moment. There's a point in the book where Lamb is walking around wondering why everything smells like cheese. And then when he goes to rescue Catherine, she discovers he has cheese stuck to the bottom of his pants. Like he sat on cheese and he's just been walking around with cheese stuck to his bottom. It's beyond ridiculous. All the farting is one thing, but this is even just worse than that. I don't know. At that point I was like, are you fucking kidding me? But we get Marcus and Shirley being fired, but then coming to rescue people. We get Douglas, but he's not nearly as, fun a character as he is in the TV series. We get him very briefly because he does come to the same end. They get the file. Lamb is holding on to it. Obviously, he's supposed to hand it off to Diana, but when she opens it, it's the fishing magazine. At the end of this book, though, Seb, who, if you remember, is Peter Judd's kind of fixer, right? He's a servant-esque, but he's really kind of... They call him the bottle washer, I think, which my understanding is basically like a fixer. And he goes into Slough House to kill Lamb, I guess, but Lamb shoots him first, and the book ends with Lamb picking up his phone to call his slow horses to come take care of this body. Okay. Nick Duffy is, in the hospital. I was like, if Spider is in the hospital, are we really going to put Nick Duffy also in the hospital? Because that feels repetitive, unimaginative. But Basically, we get Spider gone from the hospital and Nick Duffy with limited brain function, I think Diana tells Lamb, to which he says, "Did anybody notice?" Very typical Lamb. We do get Catherine walking off after Lamb reveals the truth about Charles. Not that he killed Charles, but that Charles was passing secrets to the Russians. We get Lamb and Ho going to rescue Catherine, but it's not nearly as funny as the television series, because basically whoever's adapting this is a better writer than Mick Herron. And I mean, obviously, when you're adapting for screen, you want to make things more cinematic. You also want to condense characters, so you use the same actors and characters. So, that's probably why Spider in the television series is a bigger part than in this book. You also have the benefit of knowing, more or less what's coming, at least for the next few books, because there's, 7 of these? I don't know if he's still writing them, but at least whoever's adapting it knows kind of what's going to happen, so they can plan for that, maybe. But, I mean, even still, I just think whoever's adapting it was it Will Smith? Is that the guy's name? Not Will Smith, the actor, but I think, anyway, whoever it is a better writer than Mick Herron. And it's a good thing that, you don't have to try and film people's interior thoughts, because these are just they're not good. They're not interesting. Like I said, they're a little self-indulgent on the author's part, with this idea that these characters are deep and he's writing deep stuff. I don't know. But yeah, that's overall where I'm coming from with this. I'll keep reading them out of curiosity, and because I understand that later on the books are very different from the series, and I want to see in what ways. I'm curious about that. And like I said, they're not the worst thing I've ever read, but they're not super well written either. Maybe he gets better as a writer. I don't know. If you've read it, if you've seen it, let me know your thoughts. I've got a couple of library books that I need to decide whether or not I'm going to read them or just take them back to the library. So that's next on my list. And until next time, take care.